Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order now. Miss Debbie, could you call roll for us?
Mr. Hannigan?
Here.
Ms. Hines?
Here.
Mr. Derman?
Here.
Mr. Luke?
Here.
Mr. Harrell?
Here.
Mr. Nation? Mr. Jeter?
Here.
Mrs. Seeley?
Present.
Ms. Drucker?
Here.
Mr. Bettencourt?
Here.
Mr. Womack? Mr. Hersey?
Here.
Ms. Mullet?
Present.
Mr. Kuzan?
Here.
And Mrs. Belisario.
Here. Thank you very much. Would you please stand and join us in the invocation and pledge led by Mrs. Mullet?
Please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for our school system, the employees, and we thank you for all the people in the parish that support us. Lord, we ask you to be with us tonight as we make decisions that affect every child every day. In your name we pray, amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome you to our April 12th meeting. We have a very large crowd here this evening, and it's nice to see everyone here on this beautiful spring evening. Do any board members have anyone they'd like to recognize as visitors in the audience? If not, then we'll move on to our next item on the agenda, which is persons requesting time on the agenda. For our 5-minute speaking, we have Judith Champagne. If you would please come to the podium. Judith Champagne. All right, Ms. Champagne is either delayed or not with us. We have someone to speak for 3 minutes, and that is Jessian Smith. Would you please come to the podium? And would you state your name for the record, please?
My name is Jessica Smith.
Jessica. Sorry, I couldn't read
It's
your
okay.
writing.
Good evening. I come to here tonight to pretty much stand up for my child or my children in the school system. There's a lot of bullying going on. So much to the point that children are being fat-shamed, they're being assaulted, they're being picked on. And it's worse than just name-calling. It's worse than just one kid being ugly to another. And they're just not, some people are not getting it. Now, I reached out to Miss Peggy Seeley, and she told me about this meeting that I could speak for 3 minutes. And I just wanted to say that April is National Awareness for Child Abuse. And personally, as a mother, I've fought for my children, and we've been through some rough times. But those times we've overcome, and my children have overcome. But one of my children has anxiety issues. So to the point that one kid that's been picking on him, which is no longer for right now, it's been about 3 weeks, he was to the point of feeling worthless. Today I got a call and my oldest son got suspended for 3 days. Another kid was picking on him, and basically he's had enough. He said, I'm tired of the name calling, I'm tired of the picking on me, and now we have a fractured hand and a 3-day suspension. My kids will take punishments that they get for defending themselves, but we've gone to the schools, we've gone to Miss Peggy Seeley. I've even gone as far as going to my local police department. My son even had to go to Children's Hospital, and they contacted our local police department. My chief told me to tell my children to blend in so they don't get picked on. My reply to the chief of police was, why should our children blend in when we teach them they're born to stand out? I stand here as a mother on edge because when you have a child who just turned 11, who's just had this kid picking on him and picking on him and picking on him and picking on him, and he hadn't fought back. Now recently we've had a few issues with him being boisterous and learning to communicate with the other teachers. But what do you do when a kid spits in your face? What do you do when a kid tells you he'll hit you so hard you'll die? I thought that the school took threats seriously like that. Now my child has been pretty much in trouble for being boisterous and telling teachers, you know, if you do your job, or He usually gets in trouble in the hallway with other kids. We moved him to a class with a wonderful teacher, and she's helped him out quite a bit. But my question is, to most everybody sitting in this room, why can we not deal with the bullies at hand instead of silencing the victim and moving them out of the bully's way or having a stay-away order? Something needs to be done with bullies. And I know that it starts at home, but if we do not allow our children to be abused at home and police get involved in that, why can they not stand up, and why should we allow our children to be abused by other kids at school, even their friends who have just had enough? So I come to you today and I lay my case before you. I try to just be an understanding parent, but I'm a parent that's on edge. I'm at wit's end because I love my kids so much. I refuse to bury him or put him in a mental hospital. So, my children take Zoloft just to go to school. You can talk to any counselor or psychiatrist. They will tell you his main focus problems at school. Documentations of feeling unsafe. Just recently, from December till now, 3 weeks ago, he's felt a little unsafe. So unsafe that 3 people he looked up to in his school, a janitor, a teacher, and assistant principal. Now he's doing pretty good, but there's still that anxiety of what I have to do, or why do I have to take Zoloft just to go to school? Because it's coming home, emotional breakdowns and migraine headaches. We have seizures from anxiety.
Ms.
But
Smith,
yet,
I need you to wrap it up. I'm sorry, but.
you're good, but yet nothing is done with bullies. They're just protected. Why should they be protected when it's the victims that should be protected?
Thank you for bringing your comments to the board. Thank you so much. All right, is Ms. Champagne in the room? Judith Champagne, would she like to speak? All right. Seeing that Ms. Champagne is not here, we'll move on to our next item, which is approval of the minutes for the committee as a whole meeting held on March 8th, 2018. Do I have a motion to accept those minutes? I have a motion by Mr. Derman and a second by Mr. Loop. Do we have any comments from board members? Any comments from the public? Ms. Debbie, could you cue up the voting, please? And the results. The motion passes with 13 yeses, no nays, and 1 abstention. All right, thank you. We'll now move on to our next item, which is introduction of new principals for the 2018-19 school year. And Mr. Foles is here to make those introductions.
Thank you, Ms. Hines. Board members, good evening, everyone. This is the beginning of the process of starting new administrators for our next school year, and I think you'll see when you learn of these new principals tonight, certainly there will be a domino effect that will require us from the next 3 months through the summer to bring in other administrators. But this is a great group. Extremely excited about the possibilities ahead for the schools that they will be representing. So with that said, I'd like to call out the 5 appointees, and then I think we have board members that will go to the podium and present them a little token of good luck as they take off into their new position. So first off, we have the newly appointed principal of Clearwood Junior High School, and this is Mr. Brian Horestus. I think the damage.
I want to express my gratitude for this opportunity to continue my service to the St. Tammany Parish School System as the next principal of Clearwood Junior High. I'm extremely honored and humbled to be appointed to this role. However, I would not be fully qualified to stand before you and accept this position if not for the efforts of the truly great faculty, staff, and community at 6th Ward Elementary. I want to sincerely thank them for the most fulfilling 4 years of my career. I am so proud of the hard work and accomplishments which were only realized because of their dedication to the students. I genuinely love each and every one of them, and I will miss my 6th Ward family very deeply. I also want to express my appreciation to the world's best cheerleader, my wife Megan, for her unrelenting support and her encouragement throughout the years. I am eager to join the Cougar family, where I will aspire to maintain a sense of community and pride as we strive through collaborative effort for educational excellence. Thank you all for your continued confidence in me. Thank you.
On behalf of the board, I would like to give this to you as a welcome. Also, that's a wonderful school you're going to, some fabulous people that work there. And remember, I kind of live pretty close, so I'll be dropping by.
Board members, when you give out the little token of our appreciation, would you please go all the way to the podium so that the audience can hear? Thank you.
Next up, happy to introduce to you the newly appointed principal of Folsom Junior High School, Miss Amy Barrow.
Superintendent Foles, members of the board, I want to thank you for placing your confidence in me, for appointing me to be principal at such a special place, filled with amazing people, talented students, and just a phenomenal community. I truly love Folsom Junior High. I love being a part of it, and I could not be prouder to continue to represent them. I want to thank Sharon Garrett, though, for teaching me how to lead with compassion, commitment, and faith. I could not have asked for a more inspiring mentor. I also want to thank the faculty and staff at Folsom Junior High for always rising to meet and exceed challenges, and everything they do with great joy. They have become my family, and I cherish them as much as my own family, whose support I really appreciate as well. Thank you, and I promise to make you proud. I appreciate it.
Ms.
That was me, not him.
Amy, you have done such a wonderful job as assistant principal at Folsom Junior High, and you have such great support from the faculty and staff, so we certainly appreciate everything you've done for that school, and looking forward to some more great years with you at the helm.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up, happy to introduce the new appointed principal at Magnolia Trace Elementary School, Mrs. Sarah Revere.
Superintendent Foles and members of the board, it is an honor to accept the position of principal at Magnolia Trace Elementary. As a product of St. Tammany Parish Schools, it's exciting to have this opportunity to serve as a school leader in the district. It is a true honor to be chosen to lead such an amazing school. I thank several great leaders, including Phyllis Stevens, Sharon Garrett, and Susanna Welch, for their support, guidance, and mentorship over the years. I thank my family for their utmost support at all times, my husband Bubba and my girls Allie and Elizabeth, as well as my amazing parents who support me 210% all of the time. Thank you to the Magnolia Trace family and the community. I appreciate the outpouring of support and cannot wait to begin working with you each day. Thank you to my Lancaster family. We've had some great times, and I will miss working with you. It's only fitting that I thank Miss Edwards, the current principal of Magnolia Trace, who is retiring with 45 years in education. Miss Edwards opened Magnolia Trace 20 years ago and has already provided me with a wealth of knowledge. I appreciate that. I told her when I got the job that I had some big shoes to fill. She assured me she only wears a size 8. I said she probably has 1,000 pair though. Some big shoes to fill for certain. Once again, I appreciate the opportunity. We will continue at Magnolia Trace to be the best elementary school in the district. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Ms. Revere.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
My grandson will be going there in, I think, 2 more years, so I'm looking for you to do a real good job.
Thank you.
And if you need help, it's 1 if by land and 2 if by sea.
Okay. Thank you.
Next up, I'm happy to introduce to you the new principal for next year at Pearl River High School, Mr. John Priola.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Foles, the entire school board. I've been well received so far. I've had a great support from the Pearl River administration. Mr. Winkler has been going above and beyond to help me get acclimated to the new surroundings, the community. Just one school, one community, and it just seems like a great place to work. I'd like to thank the people of Boyette Junior High, great supporting cast, and they really helped me progress to this new challenge. But I'm looking forward to the high school setting. I think it's going to be a great school. I think it's a hidden gem, and I really look forward to working with Mr. Hershey, Ms. Fuller, and the rest of the faculty and staff at Pearl River High. So I can't wait to get started. I'm anxious. I feel like a kid at Christmas first day, and I'm ready to go. And one more thing, I'd like to thank my wife for supporting me, for taking on this new endeavor. She's retiring, so that was the only way I can keep the marriage alive. I got to keep out. I got to keep working, and she can have some peace and quiet for herself. But thank you for this opportunity. Thank you.
We're so happy to have you in our community, and we welcome you. Congratulations on your new position. And we put a lot into our principals over on District 8 and I know everywhere else in the parish. So welcome and
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Last is our new appointee for next year for the principalship at Riverside Elementary School, and that is Miss Patty Holden.
I stood here about 2 years ago and didn't think I would ever be more nervous than I was at that point in time, but this has got me. Somebody just asked me where my notes were, and I was like, I was supposed to bring notes. Thank you to the board. Thank you, Mr. Foles. My heart goes out to my family, to my dad, to my mom who's not here with me, to my sister who's no longer here with me. But I know that they're here with me in spirit. I'm grateful for my mentor, Mary Lou Jordan, for seeing in me what I didn't see in myself, for encouraging me to take the steps that I needed to take to be where I am now. I'm grateful for the journey that I've taken. I'm grateful for an amazing staff. You guys heard the noise they make. They do that all the time. I look forward to continuing to work with them, to being a team with them, and to being a team with each of you in this room. I pray for the strength to do those things that I need to do and the guidance and the wisdom to know what to do, and pray that my Heavenly Father will continue to give me that strength and the continued strength from my extended family and my Pearl River family. Thank you very much.
St. Tammany Parish School Board, I want to congratulate you on your appointment. Keep doing the good work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Ms. Hines and board members, if I could, we all know to be an effective administrator, you must have the support of your family. And I know many people had family members here today. So I'm going to ask the family members of the 5 appointees to stand up and let us recognize you and thank you for supporting your family member in this new position.
congratulations to all of our new principals. It's a very tough job. We are so fortunate to have very dedicated and supportive faculties to welcome and represent our new principals. And we hope that next May, all of you feel like Mr. Priola, that it's Christmas morning. Congratulations to all of you. And thank you so much to the families. You do, as Mr. Foles stated, support your loved ones in their positions, and we really appreciate that. Thank you. All right, our next agenda item that we're going to go to is the Superintendent Student Advisory Council, and Mr. Foles is down at the podium to recognize those individuals.
Thank you, Ms. Hines. Board members, I am super proud to introduce to you our advisory panel for this school year. This is the second year that we've done this in our school system, and as you will hear from some of the speakers, this is the second year for many of them that have been into the program as well. To remind you, we have one freshman, one sophomore, one junior, and one senior from eight of the high schools, so 32 students. And each year they continue with us in the program. So we picked up 8 new freshmen this year and brought them along, and all the others were returning for their second year as well. It is one of the best things that I've ever done as superintendent. I don't know if 8 years ago when I started, if I would have had this, that I would have felt comfortable enough in myself and what we were doing to hear and listen to what these students are saying. But over the last couple of years, their support, their knowledge, their input to me and to our staff has been very instrumental. And you're going to hear from them in a minute. But before you do, I just want to share with you a little bit of what our year looked like with this great group. This is our group. We started out, you can see we pretty much got everybody in the picture here. There's 32 students and 4 from each of our 8 high schools. And as you can see, lots of different varied backgrounds, varied opportunities, various experiences, which is what makes our group special. We started our panel and we had our meetings. This year we had a meeting at Mandeville High School. The second meeting was at Salmon High School, which was certainly special to me to go back 33 years before where I started teaching and to meet with a group of students there and get the tour of the beautiful campus at Salmon High School and to meet there with all these great students was certainly special. And then this year, for the first time, we had the Christmas meeting and the Christmas luncheon here at the school board office. We thought it was important to them to learn about what happens here in the central office. Dr. Sanford, Mr. Kosei, Mr. Jabier took a group and we toured the 3 buildings of the school. And just like the elementary students that come and sing at Christmas, these high school students enjoyed riding the elevator up and down. And we took a lot of pictures with that. And they got to ask a bunch of questions. They got to meet everybody in this building. And it was just as much fun for everybody in this building as it was for the students as well. So that was exciting and something we did new this year. Then we went from there to Fontainebleau High School. And then just last week we ended up at Pearl River High School. So those were the schools that we touched this year. They were all great hosts. At each of these locations, the student body was, the students that were from their school were in charge of setting up the tours. They did a little history of their school. They did a little PowerPoint. Each of the schools' culinary arts fed us. So it was great and an opportunity to spend the day with them talking about important issues. Some of the main topics that we discussed this year was we always start the year out with the school system overview, just important to them to realize how things work, why things work, and what they do. And then we touched on these different things throughout the year. These are the leaders at their high school, so I wanted to share with them some of our experiences in leadership and how they could take that back to their school and continue to be great leaders. We did technology. We talked about communications. We spent a lot of time on school safety and security. In each of these cases, the administrators bring them to the meetings, and then we kick the principals out. So it's just myself, Meredith, and Dr. Sanford, and these 32 students. And from the very beginning, the rules are, as long as we're respectful with each other, everything is on the table for discussion. And that's what we do. And they know that they can be honest and sincere with me, and they know that I'm going to take their suggestions in the manner in which it was given, and I feel really comfortable sharing with them our challenges and the things that we're doing well as the things that we can do better on. And I ask them each and every month that we meet, how can we do this better? And we got lots of great communications. We got a lot on technology. We certainly spent a lot of time on school safety and security. And one of the things that came out of this group, we will be presenting to you a new cell phone policy. I know something that Mr. Henning and I have been talking about for quite a while, and many other board members have as well. So with the help of these 32 students, we're going to be bringing to you a new cell phone policy that I think is more in line with what we need to be doing, what we have been doing. So I told them last week that that will be their claim to fame, that they will be the group that helped us initiate and implement a new, more updated, more usable cell phone policy for the students across St. Tammany Parish Public School System. So I'm excited to bring that to you as a group, and I think a couple of the students may speak on that as well. One of the things that we always talk about is have your say. We spend a lot of time talking. I don't do, the first month I did a lot of talking. After that, it's pretty much they do most of the talking, guided through the PowerPoints that we have. So with that said, we're asking each of the schools, as a student that's represented here tonight, they're going to come and share a little bit about their experiences with our advisory panel, and then they're going to go from one to the other. We're going to start first with Chloe Kasnai from Covington High School, and then each of the ones are going to come up and introduce themselves, and then certainly I'll come back at the end and do a little closing. Okay?
Thank you.
I'm super excited to be here with you guys today. I thank Mr. Fultz and the entire board and everybody that has come here to support us. I'm nervous, no worries though. So for some people, waking up early in the morning may be a drag. In my case, that is not. Over the past years, going to St. Tammany School Board Parish Schools has made becoming a leader a lot easier than what you may have thought. I've had so many opportunities because of the school board and many of my principals and school teachers. They've really provided a way for me to speak out for others, for me to speak for myself, for me to be a better person, to wake up happy every day. That may not be the case for everybody, but that's what we strive for. That is what the Student Advisory Panel gave us. That's what they've helped us to grow on. They've gave us the perspective of how you guys work here every day, and you work hard at your job, and teach us how to work harder, and to be better people. It's given me the chance to speak to other students from different schools, from different backgrounds, ethnicities, just the whole 9 yards. It shows us how to be brave. It gives us courage. It shows us hope in the school system, and just to keep going, to stand up for ourselves, but in a very positive way. They've helped to show us a brighter future for those coming and going, and I just really like to I'm just really glad that y'all allow us to be here and allow us to have a place to fit in and be ourselves. Thank you for my mom being here also.
Good evening, members of the board, as well as all those in attendance to this meeting. I'm Alex Boss, a junior on the superintendent's panel, representing Lakeshore High School. While this is only the second year that the panel has been instituted, we have made tremendous progress. Having such a wide variety of students gives the school board a unique opportunity to see what the inside of his classroom looks like today. One of the first things we discussed was the ever-present topic of cell phones and social media. After talking with Mr. Fultz and Dr. Sanford, us students began to fully understand the complexity of the issues. We then went back to our schools, where we got student suggestions and continued on with our research into this topic. Months later, in many follow-up discussions, the 2017-2018 Superintendent Advisory Panel has finalized our cell phone policy proposal. One of the main things I realized after talking and discussing many issues is that while we were all SCPPSB proud high schools, we are all extremely different. The same thing that works at one school could be disastrous at another. We all come from outstanding schools, but we all have different traditions, policies, and procedures. Talking with other students made it clear that the only way towards progress is to take those facts and connect with each other. Only through inter-school connections have we been able to make agreements on ways to better not just education for ourselves, but for St. Tammany Parish. Thank you to all the astounding students that make this board what it is, and also to Mr. Fultz and Dr. Sanford for all they do for us. I can't wait to see what we accomplish in another year's time. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Angel Martin and I'm representing Fontainebleau High School. First, I would like to start off by saying that my experience on the Superintendent's Advisory Panel has changed my view of the school board and my school in general. I love that I have a voice in the rules and regulations of what go into my school, and that I can use it to better the experience for the students at my school, the teachers, even administrators. It's such an amazing honor for me to be able to represent my class in school, and this was my first year on the board, but my favorite part was that every student was so involved in every conversation, and we really were trusted by Mr. Foltz that our opinions matter, and we can definitely make a difference in our schools' environments and our parish's environments. Our first topic was about technology in the classroom, and it kind of lingered through a lot of our meetings. I think that being our generation, we could definitely relate to this topic, and it's great that we have that reality of cell phone use, and we could explain that and use it to better the rules of our school. So I was really amazed by all the qualities that every school represented. And I think that it was my favorite part, again, that I could use what they showed me and bring it back to my school and change for the better. And I think that's what Superintendent Foltz and the entire board's idea is, the betterment of our schools. And that's why this panel was created. I'm just so proud to say that I'm on this board, and that I would just like to thank you again for the opportunity. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Savannah Davis, and I'm a sophomore at Mandeville High School. On behalf of everyone at Mandeville, we absolutely love this board. Not just me and the students behind me, but the kids that don't get a voice, the kids who don't really know what's going on. This really helps them. So being on this panel from its beginning has been such an honor, and I'm really excited I get to finish my high school career being on this panel. So since I began participating in this group, I've seen major differences in our school board from previous schools I've gone to. I've seen major differences in the structure of each school and the principals and how we communicate with each other. Each school individual is very, very different, and it's really cool to connect with each other and to interact with each other. My favorite part of this entire experience is being able to interact with people from different schools. Of course, I just said that. It was for this panel. I never really knew the major things that went on in the school system. I didn't know that each one of you was created for a simple district. Some of you represent some schools. I didn't know that before, so that was really cool. And finally, I'm so excited that this panel was created to give me the opportunity to put myself out there and to give my opinion, especially with the school safety. It was really important to me to voice my opinion, and especially kids from around the parish, but especially for me. So I'd like to thank y'all, and especially Superintendent Foltz, for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jordan Fong, and I'm a senior at North Shore High School. This is my second year serving on the superintendent panel, and I can truly say that I have enjoyed every moment of it. I would like to thank Superintendent Foltz, Dr. Stanford, and the school board for allowing me to speak on behalf of North Shore. I would also like to thank Principal Jabbio for driving us to each and every meeting and selecting me to be a part of this panel. Being that this is my second year, I have visited all 8 high schools and would like to thank them for their hospitality. It has been a pleasure to contribute different ideas to hopefully make an impact not only within a school but throughout the entire district. We have made tremendous movement, and in the beginning of the year at a meeting we were handed our current cell phone policy, and we were quite surprised at what it entailed. It said that phones were not allowed to be on school campus at all, and I can speak for almost everyone on this panel that no high school followed that rule. Each school had the opportunity to openly tell Superintendent Foltz how each school went about their own cell phone policy, and at our last meeting, he told us that he was gonna take this new cell phone policy to you guys. And it was at that moment that I realized that this panel is much more than it actually is. Like, we're the first to do many things, and this panel is going to accomplish many more things to make the school district the best it can be. Thank you.
Hello and good evening. My name is Sarah Serla. I'm a senior at Pearl River High School. I've been honored to be a part of the Superintendent's Advisory Panel for 2 years. I was grateful to be chosen as part of the original committee last year and have been amazed at the progression that this program has made. I have thoroughly enjoyed my time on the committee as a member. As part of the committee, I tried to give feedback to the topics given to things such as like school policies. I listened to my peers in my school and the concerns that they raised, and I tried to share these matters with the panel to better our schools. On the panel, I didn't only make connections with, the students of my school, but also students from the other schools. And by being a part of this team, I learned the value of giving back. I feel as if I was able to give so much feasible feedback due to the relatable topics that were chosen. We were asked about topics that affected our daily education, such as like technology, school safety, and various policies. I look forward to seeing how this program will progress over the next few years, like with the cell phone policy as our big first statement. And finally, I'd like to thank you for this wonderful, remarkable opportunity that Superintendent Foles, the members, and everybody who's been a part of this has given. And I thank you for giving me the opportunity to give back to this school system that has given me so much. So thank you.
Hello and good evening. My name is Vivian Law, and I'm representing Salmon High School, and I'm a senior at Salmon High School. Being a part of the superintendent's student advisory panel has been a great honor and privilege. We have all learned that different schools have their own personal issues, and how we even had similar issues amongst our schools collectively. Because of this panel, we not only address problems, but we also try to fix them. As we all know, our recommendation for the cell phone policy has been completed, and we're trying to work for it to be finalized. So, and at Salmon, during the superintendent panel, we spoke about communication. And at Salmon, after we spoke about which form of communication would be most effective to spread information around to the student body, we did a verbal poll at Salmon. The students chose Twitter instead of paper news, because we know that all the paper news would be at the bottom of our book bags. So technology and social media would be easier to spread the information. But being a part of this opportunity made me realize the district really does care and want to delve deeper into the lives of their students and beyond academics. Not only that, but I appreciate that we actually saw where our donations from our school's fundraising went to, and how central office functioned, and how you guys worked. And my favorite, touring all of the participating schools and talking to all of the students from these participating schools. And the district wanting to create this panel emphasizes the fact that they really care about the students that each individual school needs. I enjoyed hearing and seeing what the panel had to say, and I hope this continues because every school needs a voice. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Elise Santiago, and I'm the senior representative for Slidell High School for the advisory panel. I would like to begin by thanking everyone who has made the advisory panel possible and for letting me have the opportunity to participate in such a meaningful organization that is already influencing our school system. Given this is my second year on a panel, I've gotten to see how much our group has grown when it comes to our discussions. This year, topics discussed that I found most passionate for many on the panel were safety and cell phone usage, due to the fact that both were heavily debated and discussed. Collaborating with the students from the different high schools and seeing if we completely agreed or disagreed with a question or proposition was a unique feeling that allowed our voices to be heard, given those directly affected, the students, a chance to be considered. After working with one another as one unified parish, it was a gratifying accomplishment to hear at our last meeting that we had all come together and influenced the parish cell phone policy. Sometimes we had a bit of tunnel vision because we only see what happens at our school. But this panel has opened my eyes to see the diverse aspects of the other 7 high schools. With this in mind, this year we actually suggested to have a tour of the hosting school, because we really only know what the inside of our own schools look like. I think I can pretty much speak for everyone when I say that it's very eye-opening to see what other students call their home for 7 hours a day, 10 months of the year. My goal at our meetings, as well as for my fellow Slidell High members, is to always remember to voice what we hear our peers discuss, as well as absorb any suggestions to bring back to the attention of the administration at our school. We grow from working together and learning from one another. I hope this advisory panel continues to impact and contribute to our school system for future years. I think the beauty of this organization is that we're all working towards the greater good of the future and bettering our educational system in our community, and it's comforting to know that someone who can make changes wants the students' opinions to be heard. Thank you for this opportunity, and it has truly been an honor to serve my school community.
Board members, as you can see, this is a really, really special group of students. They're very special to me. The time that we spent with them, you know, there are parts of this job that are better than others, and really the days that we get to spend with them are at the top of the list. So I want to ask all of them to stand up and let us recognize you and say thank you to you. I think you can tell we spent a little time on a cell phone policy. Underneath each of your chairs is a little gift from us to help you room a little bag with stuff. So we want to thank you for that. Also, before we end the meeting, Ms. Heinz, if I could, I'm going to ask any of the family members of these students that happen to come tonight, if you can stand as well. They're high school students, but I know there's some family members here as well. So. This school system is a special place because of students like this and because of family members like that to support everything that we do in this system. So I thank them all for that, and I thank them for their efforts. Many of you will be returning next year for our 3rd year, so we're excited for that. I'm also excited for the 8 that I will be giving them their high school diploma in less than a month's time. So I can tell you it's special for me to see how they've grown in this committee and to be able to give them their diploma in a couple of weeks as well. So I thank them all. We pray for you, and we wish you the best. God bless you, and thank you for everything that you've done to make this school system a better place.
Mr. Foltz and audience members, you can see that's a very articulate group, and I'm just wowed by all the things you had to tell us about our school system. You know, you seem to be very connected to your campuses and appreciative of the opportunity to see the other campuses, to see how much they're different, but how much they're alike also. And I know that you took this word back to your other schools, students, and we appreciate that and just are so appreciative of you being there. I thought it was wonderful that one of you said that you appreciated the value of giving back, and that meant a lot to me as a school board member. You know, we always talk about lifelong learning, but that's a wonderful lesson to take from this, and we very much appreciate that. Do other board members have comments they would like to make? All right, thank you so much for being here this evening. All right, we'll move on to our next item on the agenda, which is our foreign exchange students that we have with us this evening, and we have Dr. McCurley here to introduce us to these students.
Good evening, Superintendent Foltz and board members. It's that time of the year again when we both acknowledge and bid farewell to our foreign exchange students. This year, we had the privilege of hosting 3 foreign exchange students from France, Finland, and Norway. They traveled all that distance to experience our American culture and experience our education system. To recognize our special guest, I'll read a tidbit about their experience with us. As each name is called, please, students, approach the podium to have a picture taken with Mr. Folse and to receive a certificate. First, from Fontainebleau High School, we have Romaine Guillot, and she is from France. She has thoroughly enjoyed her time at Fontainebleau High School. While attending FHS, she participated in the Powder Puff game and showed her school spirit and support for her Bulldogs by attending other activities throughout the year. Romaine loves tennis and actually played tennis approximately 14 years in France. Some of Romaine's favorite things about her visit are the people and the city of New Orleans. Next, from North Shore High School, we have Ida Hannanen. She is currently attending North Shore High and visits us all the way from Finland. In Finland, she was a member of the soccer team. At North Shore High, she currently participates in the Interact Club. She also enjoys spending time with friends and playing other sports. Ida has totally enjoyed experiencing high school life in the United States. She has especially enjoyed experiencing a new culture and making many new friends. Okay, third, from Salmon High School, we have Sarah Sterling. She's a student from Norway. While at Salmon, Sarah not only played soccer, but made first district and was recognized as the top scorer. Sarah also played tennis at Salmon. In addition to her athletic endeavors, Sarah made the honor roll while taking advanced placement courses. She received the National Award for Physical Fitness through JROTC, receiving the fastest time in the 1-mile run, and placed at the top in the Cadet Challenge. Sarah's anticipating going on senior trip next week. Thanks. At this time, please turn your attention to the screen for a video presentation composed by our very own Channel 13.
Hej, jeg heter Sara Stølen og jeg er fra Norge.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Romane Guillot et je viens de France dans les Alpes françaises.
Hei, minun nimeni on Ida, olen kotoisin Suomesta ja käyn North Shore High School.
In Louisiana, I really like the food, the specialties from here, like gumbo, jambalaya. I really like crawfish. I think that's really, really good.
I'll never experience anything like Mardi Gras at home. Like the community, just everybody comes out, have a good time, everybody all together.
I went to a couple football games last fall and it was so crazy because like the school spirit was amazing.
I was thinking I was going to do biology when I came here, but I couldn't, so I took chemistry. And I've learned a lot in chemistry that I didn't know from before. And I really like chemistry now. I didn't think I did.
I like working with groups, and like here we've done quite much group work, so it's been really nice to working with groups and doing stuff, and that's where like you get to know people better, like who you wouldn't probably know.
When I was in France, I had to translate from Spanish to French, and here it's from Spanish to English. So it's good because I improve my Spanish and my English at the same time.
After high school, I've been thinking about like medical sciences, and I would like to be a doctor.
I'm going straight to college, so yeah, I'm hoping majoring in languages and economics, like a double major in economics and Spanish and French.
I'm planning on actually going to this one-year study abroad again in Indonesia, in Bali, with one of my best friends back home in Norway.
Kiitos North Shore High School tästä aivan upeasta kokemuksesta.
Tusen takk Salmon High School for at jeg har fått komme hit og fått så mange fine opplevelser og minner.
Merci beaucoup Fontainebleau High School pour m'avoir permis de vivre une incroyable expérience.
This is another amazing group of young ladies in addition to the advisory panel, so thank you for joining us. Also at this time, the principals who hosted these students are here, so if they would stand to be recognized. Mr. Vetrano from Fontainebleau High, Mr. Jabbia from North Shore High, and Miss Saudia Blackman-Stokes from Salmon. Also, in addition to host schools, we need host families. So if any of those host families are with us tonight, we thank you, and please stand as well. Finally, Ms. Danelle Merritt with EF High School Exchange Year would like to make a special presentation.
Dr. McCurley, I would like to present you and the school board with the Global Education Excellence Award from EF High School Exchange Year for your support and dedication to our exchange kids.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Do we have questions from board members? We'd just like to say we are so pleased that you've spent this school year with us, and we welcome you. It's a little late in the year to be welcoming you, but we do welcome you. It's a shame I didn't know earlier. My son-in-law speaks Finnish. We could have, he could have spoken to you. But we're glad that you all are here with us, and hope you'll have many great stories to share with your families at home when you leave us. And there'll always be a special place in your heart for our school system, we hope. Thank you.
Thank you, girls.
So we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is the textbook adoption, and we have Mrs. LeBlanc to give that report. Mrs. LeBlanc?
Thank you. Good evening, Superintendent Falls and board members. This evening, I'd like to present to you an update with recommendations on this year's textbook adoption for agriculture, family and consumer science, world languages, French, German, and Spanish. Before you is a timeline detailing the textbook adoption process with events that occur before, during, and after an adoption. The process began in November of 2017 to research textbook publishers for Ag, Family and Consumer Science, and all 3 world languages. In December and January, textbook committees were being formed, and by late January, notices were sent to inform the public that Ag, Family and Consumer Science, and world language textbooks were being considered for adoption. Locations to review the samples from February 5th through March 8th were also publicized. On March 10th, committee representatives attended the publishers' formal presentations at Lakeshore High School. There were a total of 9 publishers that expressed interest in participating in this year's adoption. However, 3 withdrew prior to the publishers' formal presentations. All of the vendors participating in this year's adoption are familiar with our school system, and we have previously purchased textbooks from them. Public input is important. During the textbook adoption process, viewing rooms are set up to display sample textbooks at schools as well as our public locations. In Slidell, it was Brooks Educational Complex, and in Covington, it was Harrison Curriculum Center. Sign-in sheets and feedback forms were available at all locations for teachers, parents, and community to share their input. In this adoption process, there were 48 textbook committee members, teachers who were selected by their schools to represent each content area based at their school. In addition, 12 parent and community members also participated in the adoption process. To ensure all textbooks were judged based on content and instructional value, evaluation rubrics were used that addressed the 6 major criterion categories: content emphasis, student materials, instructional focus, assessment, teacher materials, and digital resources. Both teacher and parent and committee members attended the formal presentations. Committee members were vital to this process. Each member was to review the textbook samples using a rubric to guide their evaluation. Each committee member was to share and discuss their evaluations of the textbooks with their school faculty. All input was considered from school faculty, parents, and community. Committee reps were to attend the publisher's formal presentation and then return to their campus to clarify and update the faculty on any newly learned ideas from the event. Time was given to take input from faculty again before submitting a vote that was representative of the majority at their school. Parent and committee members that attended the formal presentations also voted. Now, let's take a look at the vote by category. For the junior high course, Exploratory Agriculture, the textbook receiving the most votes with 60% is the Pearson Prentice Hall textbook. For the Ag 1 course, the Goodhart Wilcox textbook received the unanimous vote. This same book will be used for Ag 2 and Ag 3. For the junior high course, Homemaking, the McGraw-Hill textbook received 60% of the votes. For Family and Consumer Science, of the 3 textbooks selected, the McGraw-Hill textbook received 50% of the votes. Under the category of Family and Consumer Science, 2 books were chosen. The first, to support the child development courses, the textbook receiving the most votes is the Goodhart Wilcox textbook with 50% of the votes. The second textbook under the Family and Consumer Science category, to support the nutrition and food courses, resulted in a 50-50 split vote. The 2 choices were Goodhart Wilcox and Pearson Prentice Hall textbooks. Due to the tie, the District Career Technical Education Team, also known as the CTE team, conducted a review to determine alignment of course content standards. Consequently, the Goodhart Wilcox textbook was chosen. In world languages, the textbook receiving the most votes for the French course is the Houghton Mifflin Harcourt textbook with 86%. For German, the EMC textbook received 100% of the votes. For Spanish, Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, HMH, received 63% of the votes. Therefore, tonight's recommendation is to adopt the textbooks in each category that received the most votes. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. LeBlanc. Do I have a board member? Okay, I have a motion from Mrs. Mullet and a second from Mr. Nation. Now, yes. Oh, thank you, Mr. Jeter. All right. Mrs. Mullet and Mr. Jeter second the recommendation to accept the committee's recommendation on the textbook adoption. All right, let's queue up for questions, please. Mr. Betancourt, I saw you had your hand raised. Would you like to speak first? On the side. Yes. Mr. Betancourt.
Thank you, Mrs. Hines. Ms. LeBlanc, I just wanted to ask you, there were 48 plus 12, so about 60 people on that committee.
Correct.
Did all 60 review all of those things, or were they broken up into different groups to each review a particular subject?
Yes. Each of the textbook committee reps were assigned to their content area. So it was collectively.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Any other questions from other board members? Would anyone like to queue up? Mr. Derman?
Thank you, Ms. Hines. I was just curious if we had an estimate of the cost on all of these textbooks?
Yes. The projected cost that we're looking at is about $450,000.
Okay, and I assume they got some type of software component as well in this?
We're for the Spanish and French, we're getting
Okay.
them.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else? Mr. Kuzan?
What length of time did the textbook committee, how many times, how long did it take to come up?
Okay. The viewing window was from February 5th through March 8th. And then it was followed up with March 10th were the formal presentations.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Anyone else? All right, if no one else would like to speak to it, we do have a motion. Do we have any comments from the public on our textbook adoption? If not, I'll ask that we queue up the voting, please. And I would ask board members to vote when it comes up. All right, can we close voting, please? And let's see the results of that motion. We have 14 yeas on that motion, so that motion passes. Thank you, Ms. LeBlanc, for your report, and thank you to your committee members and the public who reviewed those textbooks.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to the end of our meeting. We appreciate everyone being here this evening. Our business affairs meeting is to follow with a very short recess. Thank you very much.
Welcome to this April 12th meeting of the Business Affairs Administrative Committee meeting, and I ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Mr. Hannigan? Here. Ms. Hines? Here. Mr. Derman?
Here.
Mr. Loop?
Here.
Mr. Harrell?
Here.
Mr. Nation?
Here.
Mr. Jeter?
Here.
Mrs. Sealy?
Present.
Mrs. Drucker?
Here.
Mr. Betancourt? Mr. Womack? Mr. Hersey?
Here.
Mr. Mullet? Mr. Kuzan?
Here.
And Mrs. Belisario.
Okay, thank you. The invocation and pledge were set at our previous committee meeting, so they'll be dispensed with here. Any visitors that the committee would like to recognize? All right, and there were, not seeing any, and there were no persons requesting time on the agenda, so we'll move on to item 3A to recommend acceptance of the district handbook for students and parents for the 2018-2019 school year. Mr. Kosei for some introductory remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Nation. Board members, in your board docs tonight, as well as we placed a paper portion of this document. It is the District Handbook Committee that has met on March the 7th, 2018 at 4 p.m. at Fontainebleau High School Library, and the committee has made the following recommendations to our District Handbook Committee handbook. And there are two main changes we're asking for your review and acceptance. One is on page 13 in our handbook. It's dealing with type 1 absences, exempted, excused. And the change in that, on that page, would be down on the 6th bullet that is highlighted on your document. We're asking you to change that bullet to read, visitation with an immediate family member who is a member of the United States Armed Forces or the National Guard of a state, and such immediate family member has been called to duty for or is on leave from overseas deployment to a combat zone or combat support posting with proper documentation. These absences shall not exceed 5 days per school year. The second change that we're asking you to approve tonight is on page 15 of our handbook. It's under student dress code for males. If you look down at the second sentence under hair, we're asking you to delete the sentence that reads, afros or tease styles may not exceed 3 inches in height.
Okay, and without any objection from committee members, we'll treat both of these as one, with one motion. So Mrs. Seeley moves to accept the committee's recommendation. Is there a second? Mrs. Drucker seconds. We'll queue up the discussion. There we go. All right. Would anyone like to, Mr. Betancourt?
All right, thank you, Mr. Nation. Mr. Kosei, on page 15, under the student dress code for males, it talks about hair. Where is it? Not unusually colored. Nowadays, what exactly does that mean?
Well, our principals determine the rights, what's extreme in styles and dress, and extreme coloring could be a factor there, where you're coming with bright pink painted hair or something along those lines that may be a distraction on our campuses, and that is left up to our principals.
Up to the principal. That's what I was wondering, because I've seen colors I've never seen before. If you go to a mall or something, and I'm just wondering, when it says the word normal, a lot of that stuff seems to be normal these days, you know? But anyway, thank you.
Yes, sir, and I've asked Mr. DeRoos to step to the podium as well. He is our committee chair for this particular process.
What color hair does he have?
Hair's so overrated to me, Mr. Betancourt.
Thank you, Mr. Betancourt. Are you? Anyone else? Mr. Kosei, who all is on the committee?
It's quite a large committee, and it encompasses students, parents, different members of our employee staff across the gamut of the different types of employees we have in our system, as well as our administrators and our administration from the central office.
Okay. And maybe just for the edification of the public as well as for the committee, any comments as to why these changes were made? I mean, what prompted either or both changes?
And I will definitely defer that to Mr. DeRoos since I was not in that meeting.
All right.
Yes, sir. Mr. Nations, the committee felt that with the armed forces change, that parent was too narrow. We have students who have uncles, they have brothers, they have sisters who are in the armed forces who come back and need some time to go see them as well. And as far as the deletion of afros and teased hairs, the hair above 3 inches, just felt that it was an outdated rule.
Okay. All right. Mr. Betancourt, are you still? Okay. Okay, you're finished. Anyone else?
Are you still in the public?
We'll be in just a moment. No. Yeah, so we'll close for committee members now. Any comments or questions from the public? Right.
Okay, on page 15, in regards to the hair, African Americans are the only one that wear afros. Is that correct? are you singling out, you know, and when you say chiwis, are you talking about dreadlocks? What type of style, hairstyles are you talking about?
We didn't mention chiwis, ma'am. We're mentioning afros or T styles.
Okay, you're talking about spikes, or, you know, what is it, you know, when you say, what kind of style are you talking about? Dreadlocks,
Did the committee discuss that
cheese
in
styles? I
detail?
need to know what styles are you saying, because, you know, we wanna. I know tees is like tees, but dreadlocks is also longer than, you say, 3 inches?
Mr. DeRusse or Mr. Kosei, as I understand, this, we're allowing these hairstyles, is that correct?
Right, we're removing that. We're asking you to remove that from our policy.
We're taking out, we're allowing afros and we're allowing dreadlocks.
It was already in the policy.
We were we're currently prohibiting those. Now we're allowing them. Or that's what.
And the same thing with hair coloring? You're allowing that too?
Well, that's not in the recommendation tonight. No, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the question. Absolutely. All right. Any other questions or comments from the public? Oh, please come to the, and I'm sorry, I should have asked you to introduce yourself, but please introduce yourself for the record.
My name's Chris Pizzuto, and it's just a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Is the hair coloring restricted just to the boys, or is it girls too?
No, sir. As far as the extreme hair coloring, it's not restricted to the females.
But it's left up to the discretion of the principal of each individual school?
As far as what's
With input from the central office for
as
some
far as what's
consistency.
extreme, that's correct.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. All right. Any other questions or comments from the public? All right. Not seeing any, we'll open the floor for voting. Still waiting on 2 board members. I think,
Mine hasn't come up yet.
I just want y'all to know it's not me.
We'll see you in a
Not this time.
It's me. I haven't come up yet.
all right.
It's okay. No, please don't.
Beg the indulgence of the audience as we get used to our new technology, which is making life easier, you know. And I will take this moment to say, all kidding aside, that this is, you can go to our board docs website and see the agenda and things before the meeting. So it actually is increasing our transparency. All right? All committee members have voted. Close the voting. Okay, all right. And motion to accept the district handbook for students and parents, those 2 recommendations passes unanimously. All right. Now we'll move on to item 4A, to approve the March 8th, 2018 committee as a whole meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? All right, Mr. Betancourt, heard him first. Mr. Derman, so I'll take you as a second. So Mr. Betancourt makes the motion, and Mr. Derman seconds. Any questions or comments from committee members for the minutes? Any questions or comments from the public? All right, we'll open the floor for voting. Okay. All committee members have voted. We'll close the voting. And the minutes passed, 13 yeas, no nays, and 1 abstention. All right. Mr. Kosei, we'll move now to item 5, administrative.
Thank you, Mr. Nation. Item A, our monthly maintenance and custodial report is available for you on board docs for review. And Mr. James Williams, our supervisor of maintenance, and his assistants are here for any questions you may have.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Williams? All right, item B.
Item B, our monthly risk management report is also in board docs for your review. And Mr. Kurt Gaspard, our risk manager, is here to answer any questions you may have relative to that report.
All right, any questions for Mr. Gaspard? Okay, item C.
Item C, our monthly transportation report is also there in your agenda. And Mr. Steve Alfonso, our supervisor of transportation, along with his 2 assistants, are here for any questions regarding that report.
Any questions for Mr. Alfonso? All right. Thank you, Mr. Kosei.
Thank you, Mr. Nation.
You did a great job, and we'll report that to Mr. Jabby upon his return. All right. All right. Move on to item 6, Ms. Tipton.
Thank you, Mr. Nation. Our first item is we recommend acceptance of Fontainebleau Junior High School new classroom and music building additions as substantially complete, subject to architect's recommendations, submission of all regulatory requirements, and approval of Superintendent Foles, St. Tammany Parish School Board Project number 1405.
All right, and I will second that motion. So Mr. Betancourt moves, and I second the motion regarding Fontainebleau Junior High. Any questions or comments from board members for Ms. Tipton regarding item A? Any questions or comments from the public? All right, we'll open the floor for voting. Okay, all committee members have voted. We'll close voting. And motion carries unanimously, 14 yeas and no nays. All right, we'll move on to item B, Ms. Tipton.
Item B is that we recommend acceptance of Pearl River High School renovations as substantially complete, subject to the architect's recommendations, submission of all regulatory requirements, and approval of Superintendent Foles, St. Tammany Parish School Board Project number 1410.
And I move.
Motion by Mrs. Seeley. Is there a second? Okay. Mrs. Belisario. Mrs. Belisario seconds. Floor is open for committee members' questions or comments. Okay, not seeing any. Any questions or comments from the public? Not seeing any there. We'll open the floor for voting. Okay. All committee members have voted. Close voting. Motion carries 14 yeas, no nays, unanimous. All right. Ms. Tipton, item C.
We recommend acceptance of Bayou Lacombe Rural Museum alterations as substantially complete, subject to architect's recommendations, submission of all regulatory requirements, and approval of Superintendent Foles, St. Tammany Parish School Board Project number P0090.
All right. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
All right. Mr. Jeter moves and Mr. Kuzan seconds. Floor is open now for questions or comments from committee members. Not seeing any. Is there anything from the public? Not seeing anything there. We'll open the floor now for voting. Okay, committee members have all voted. We'll close voting. And the motion is adopted unanimously. All right, item D.
Our next item is for bids received on March 27, 2018 We are recommending acceptance of the lowest responsive and responsible base bid submitted by McGee Excavation and Development in the amount of $169,400 for the site work renovations project located at Covington High School, St. Tammany Parish School Board Project number P0171.
Motion by Mrs. Heinz. Second by Mr. Derman. Is there any questions or comments from committee members? Any questions or comments from the public? Hi, and could you state your name
Yes,
and place
my
of
name-
residence for the record?
Okay. My name is Belinda Parker Brown with Louisiana United International. I just have a question on the considerations of the bids. Do you have an outline of how you would determine, which bid was the highest, lowest? Do you have something like that for us to look at?
Ms. Tipton?
We follow public bid law with regard to this, and these were advertised publicly, and we received and opened bids publicly. And the attachments, the bid tabulation is available. It's actually on the school board website.
Okay.
Under bids. And we can, if you call our office, we can certainly help you get to that location on the school board website.
Okay, I tried to find it on the website, and so I probably need to call the office. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the public? All right, we'll open the floor for voting. Okay, all committee members have voted, so we'll close voting. And passes unanimously, 14 yeas, no nays. All right, now we'll move on to item E.
We received bids for the Mandeville Elementary School roof replacement on March 27th, 2018 also, and we are recommending acceptance of the lowest responsive and responsible base bid submitted by Fishers Incorporated in the amount of $173,400 for project number R0029, roof replacement project at Mandeville Elementary School.
Okay, and I so move. Is there a second? All right, Mr. Betancourt seconds. Any questions or comments from committee members? Any questions or comments from the public? All right, we'll open the floor for voting. Okay, all committee members have voted. We'll close voting. And the motion is adopted unanimously. All right, item F.
We received bids for the Mandeville High School modular classroom relocation and associated infrastructure project on March 29th, 2018, and we are recommending acceptance of the lowest responsive and responsible base bid submitted by CM Combs Construction LLC in the amount of $226,000 for this project number P0198.
All right. Okay, is there a motion? Mr. Hennigan moves. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Mrs. Drucker seconds. Any questions or comments from committee members? Any questions or comments from the public? All right, we'll open the floor for voting. All right, everybody's getting the hang of this. We've all voted. We'll close voting and tabulate the votes. And motion carries unanimously, 14 yeas, no nays. All right, item G.
Yes, sir. Just Tuesday of this week, April 10th, we received bids for the RISE Learning Center renovations. We were able to get this uploaded onto bid docs this afternoon, and you also have a paper copy at your desk. We are recommending acceptance of the lowest responsive and responsible base bid submitted by CM Combs Construction LLC in the amount of $737,000 for the renovations project located for Rise Learning Center, St. Tammany Parish School Board Project Number P0194.
All right, is there a motion?
I'll move.
Okay, Mrs. Seeley, is there a second? All right, Mrs. Mullet seconds. Now the floor is open. Mr. Foltz.
Yes, this is a new initiative I'm really excited about, and I've asked Dr. Sanford to kind of give you a little overview from the curriculum perspective. Then I'll talk to you about what we're looking at facility-wise, as well as Ms. Tipton and Mr. Kosei. So, Dr. Sanford, why don't you give an overview first from the curriculum perspective?
Board members, Superintendent Foltz and the administrative team meet regularly with the principals advisory group, and this group has been asking for the past couple of years to bring to our attention that we have students who would benefit from such a program such as this. This would be a restorative intervention program, especially targeting some of our special education students. So what we did as a result was to form a committee of approximately 24 individuals from all levels of job descriptions, the SPED staff, principals, district staff at all levels. This group has been meeting since August, and then we break into subcommittees, and we all have individual tasks to bring back to the committee. So as a result, this program we see to serve 30 to 40 of our most needy students with wraparound services, those who would greatly benefit from the social, emotional, and behavioral wraparound services. We see this primarily starting with our earlier grade students because that's where you make the longest impact for time. So we see this primarily in grades 1 through 5. However, we would expand that as needed based upon the IEP decision. Primarily May students and possibly RNC students would be targeted. This would be a total therapeutic service as well as providing the education that these students need, with the hope that they would transition back to their regular campus after a period of time with improved behavior so that they could then function in their base school. Staffing-wise, what we see is a need for an administrator or a coordinator to oversee this program. We would need 3 elementary teachers, 3 mental health providers, 12 paras, because most of these students do have individual para needs, as well as an itinerant staff member who would work with art, music, and PE. There would be shared personnel with both other campuses, Project Believe as well as Project Team West. We see those individuals being either SRO or security, 1 person, a nurse shared, a behavioral interventionist who could be a social worker or a psychologist, and an academic interventionist to help the teachers target all of the individual needs, because IEPs are written individually for those students. We have worked with Steve Alfonso. We believe that 4 buses would be able to provide the door-to-door services for these students, and we would see this beginning as possible 2nd semester.
So, board members, what we have here is a proposal to look into this new program. As Dr. Sanford talked about, it's one of the things that bubbles up the most when we meet with administrators. The opportunity, I do believe it's something that would be good for the students that are involved. Dr. Sanford gave you those numbers. Let me give you these numbers from a facility point of view. As you know, we currently release a building at South Haven, which is the old Southeast Hospital, South Haven. There we release, and at that building, Project Team West, as well as Project Believe, is housed there. The Parish has this additional building that is available, And the numbers you're seeing, the $700,000, would be the monies that were spent by the school system to make it usable for this May program. We have communicated and worked with the parish, and since we do not own the building, the renovations we will be doing on a building that's owned by the parish, they have agreed to reduce the lease rate down to us so that in 8 years, we would recoup the money that we have spent on the building. So we took the total amount of what we're spending, the $700,000, took it by the square footage, reduced it down so that the money that we're spending, we're getting, if you will, a credit from the parish on the leasing. Over the 8-year period of time, it would be even, and then we both have agreed after 8 years that we would look at releasing our monies and our rental properties at that time. David Pittman has worked with Kelly Rabelais from the parish president's office as well. Everyone's in agreement. It works. It's the best for the students. It's best for the students. It's wraparound services all in one location, and we think it's something new, exciting, and certainly as a model for other school systems across this parish that work with special ed students that should be a benefit to everyone involved. So that's the particulars of it from the curriculum point of view, from the facility point of view, and from the monies that will be spent on it as well.
Okay. Let's queue up the, our discussion panel line. All right, we'll start with Mr. Derman.
Thank you. I know we've had off and on discussion about something along these lines for the last couple of years, I would think. And I think if I'm correct, this is really involving our more behavior issue children, I guess, the May children. Is that what you said, Trey?
Yes, sir.
And I know we're spending money to do this. How much money would it, I don't want to say free up, but I mean, how much are we spending in our regular ed
We believe that,
classes?
once you look at the numbers that are being spent there, that some of these services, if they were at a central location, we wouldn't be duplicating them as much as we are now. So we believe that there would be a savings from that point of view. So this is not additional monies.
It's not just a straight
No,
outlay.
sir. We believe that even though this is coming from parish-wide construction funding, that we would recoup money on other instructional facilities, staffing needs as we go along with it. Not to say that this won't grow. I mean, this is a pilot to start at a smaller, doable number, but I think if you look at our special ed numbers, that, it will grow. But we think we can start small like this, meet the needs of the students at the early age, learn from as we go, and build it as we go along. So you're correct in that expenses there are expenses that we won't have to put out at other locations that we are now. And we are duplicating services in some perspectives.
Okay, because, I know I'll probably share some of the other board members' concerns looking at the monies and where, serving just a smaller group of students seems to be a lot. But when you look at the disruption that's caused in our regular school ed setting, and then the impact that it has on many students, you have to put a value on that as well.
Well, that same pair as the 12 or so that Regina mentioned, many of those are already at the school with those students and would actually be following that student to the school. And we'll be picking up some additional staff. There's some places you can't duplicate services, but there's some that you can.
Right, okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify some of that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Derman. Mr. Jeter.
Dr. Sanford, the selection process, can you talk to us briefly about that process?
We haven't gotten to that process yet because we see the need for having the facility and then the staffing as being second. But we would want people not to be rifted into these positions. We would want people to choose to work in this facility.
Were you talking about students or staff?
Well, actually, I'm talking about the May program is already in place.
The student selection he was talking about.
The student selection, that would be
Yeah.
through the IEP process with parent input.
Okay, when we talk IEP, special ed, we're talking federal, is that correct?
Yes, federal requirements.
And the program that we're talking about now is going to be by the system, St. Tammany Parish? school
Yes,
system?
it would be our program. However, we do receive some federal dollars for special ed services through our IDEA
But
budget.
these are not new services that we'd be offering to these students. These are services that they're already receiving and would be, continue to receive at this new location with some wraparound services and less duplication and more centrally located
Okay, what
to
you
be
just-
more effective.
Okay, what you said just now makes
Okay.
a little bit more sense.
I'm sorry if I
Because
didn't
we
say that.
already have those programs in place.
Yes, sir.
To address those students.
Yes, we do. And we're having to utilize many people on timesheets, and our special ed staff is spread very thin to service some of the most high-risk students.
We just think
Okay.
we can do it better at this location.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cheater. Mrs. Drucker.
Dr. Stanford, where, I must have missed this. Where is the location?
The old Southeast Hospital location, if you have been out to that facility, it would be the building before you get to Project Team West.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think this is a great idea because we're pulling resources all in one spot.
right.
And like you said, we're not duplicating it. But this is going to grow because our special needs program, I mean, we're getting more and more special needs kids coming to our parish. And I know it's subsidized with federal funding, but I think we'll have better control of it as far as with the control of I guess the teachers learning from each other and containing it in one spot. And
Yes.
transportation is not going to be an issue, according to. you
We
had
have spoken
mentioned.
with Mr. Alfonso, and we believe that we have a workable plan for that.
Because this, I believe this is going to end up growing. We're going to probably need more space. That's from, if we look historical figures. So, all right. Thank you so much for working on this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Drucker. Mr. Hennigan.
Thank you. Two questions. One is about the cost, and the second one is about the construction. So the first one, we as a parent, I recognize that these kids have special needs, and we are spending today a lot of money meeting those needs. And I support the idea of trying to centralize this to do it in a more efficient way, I think, and maybe better quality by getting the right people there. So I'm in favor of it. But just for my own understanding, has anyone put a pencil to the cost for these students at this environment, excluding the construction? Where I'm going is our average student costs us around $12,000 a year, plus or minus. That's the last numbers. Any idea what these students are going to cost us? So is it like $50,000 a year, you think?
We can get those numbers for you. I don't think you're going to see a big increase in cost at
No,
this
not
location,
an
but you
increase.
just want to know what we're spending now, basically.
For the extreme ends of our
Yeah, I mean-
aptitudes, we spend more money.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you run, some of these students are one or two paras, and support staff.
I'd be curious. It'd be
Yeah.
a number that I'd like to
Sure,
have.
sure.
People ask where your
Yes,
tax
indeed.
dollars are going.
Yes,
I mean,
yeah.
this soaks up a bunch of them.
Yes, sir.
But it's necessary.
Yes, sir.
The other question goes to really the construction, and goes to Ms. Tipton, I guess. I saw the bids, and what's alternate two, out of curiosity? Because the bids that came in for alternate two were odd. You agree?
Yeah, one of the bidders certainly missed what their number considerably compared to others, but alternate two was some additional restroom facilities. And we actually asked that bidder, and he said they got mixed up. They had a couple of bids going that day.
You think it's likely you would want to award option two? At
We're
this stage?
recommending the base bid tonight only.
Because we had budgeted $700,000 for this, and it's not like some of the other funds, whether it be from millage renewals or whether it be overage from construction projects. This is parish-wide funds that we use for all the other, usually smaller projects. So we just felt at this time, to get it up and running, that this was the best cost factor to go.
Could I ask that at least Cameron or Trey tell us if you do eventually go
Sure.
for option two?
Sure. But, by law, Cameron, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but by law, if you take two, you must take one first.
Well, you have to take the alternates in order
Correct.
unless it doesn't change who the low bidder would be. So in this case, it would change that, and you would have to take alternate one before you could take alternate two.
Yeah.
Just let us know at the end.
Yeah, and we can do that, and certainly there'll be other opportunities, but this will get us started.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hennigan. Mrs. Bellisario.
Thank you. Just so I understand the idea a little bit better, once a child is identified as a possible candidate for this, is that when an IEP conference would be held with the parent to see if the parent was interested, or would it be more mandatory?
No, ma'am, it would have to be voluntary from the parent, and our belief is that with all of the wraparound services that would be housed at one facility, there could be more time devoted to the behavioral management of these students. So seeing the value of being in one site with dedicated time is the selling point.
Do you see the students going to their school and then getting bused from their school to this location and then back to school?
We think it would be more door-to-door because we're required to provide bus transportation for special ed services. If that is correct, Mr. Alfonso.
Yes.
Okay. And what was alternate one?
Alternate one was a canopy, I believe. It went from where the drop-off was to the building, as well as some extra exterior fencing. And then alternate two was additional restroom services. Yes, ma'am.
And my other question was, I thought there was some prohibition about us doing construction or renovation on something that wasn't ours. Is that not a problem?
Mr. Pittman and Ms.
We're in the process of working with the parish, and there's actually, it's going to come up on the agenda May 3rd.
Like an agreement, okay.
So, Ms.
Thanks.
Balacero, if you would happen to know a parish council person that could maybe help us get that passed, we'd appreciate that.
I've actually seen a few emails
All
going
right,
back
there you
and
go.
forth
All
about
right.
it.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Bellisario. Mr. Harrell.
Yes, I'm sorry, this is first I've heard of this. And
It's been discussed for a while, Mr. Harrell.
I guess I missed those meetings, but I was not aware of it, so I'm gonna either abstain or vote against it until I get some more information.
Okay.
I'd be glad to give it to you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Harrell. Mrs. Seeley.
Thank you. This, for point of clarification, this is our education building that sits at Southeast Hospital on that property.
It's not our building.
Okay,
but it
I'm
is
sorry,
a
not our
building next door.
Okay. Are we going to be using the whole building?
We would be using the vast majority of it, but there is a wing that we would not use.
Okay.
15,000 square feet is the additional amount that we'll be using.
Thank you.
And the location just makes sense for we're already out there. The location makes sense because of the central location, makes sense how you enter to the property, so it's all just a really good fit.
Thank you.
Okay.
But it's 15,000 square feet.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Seeley. Mr. Bettencourt.
Thank you, Mr. Nation. Ms. Tipton, run that by me again. I'm not sure I understood. If we were to do alternate one, can you use the low bidder on alternate one and likewise with alternate two, or do you have to use the one that won the base bid?
In this particular case, you would add alternate one to the base, and the number one company, CM Combs would still be low, so they would be rewarded. If you added the second alternate, you add all three together, then Dixon becomes the low bid, the low total. You couldn't go from base to two. You have to go base one, and then if you go from base one, then you add the second to it as well. So if you were to go base, it's CM Combs. Base and alternate one, still CM Combs. Base and alternate two, then it would go to Dixon contract. Keeping in mind that we had originally budgeted $700,000 for the project.
All right, and on an alternate two list, is that an accurate number, the 52,000?
No, sir.
Because this doesn't jive.
As Ms. Tipton mentioned a minute ago, this company has told Cameron that they were inaccurate in their bid. By mistake or misunderstanding or anything like that.
That is the bid that they showed for alternate two, and obviously it is not in keeping with what everybody else thought that work was worth. And we did inquire later, and they just indicated that they just made, they missed it when they were putting their bid together.
Okay, and then here's another question. We're gonna vote tonight on just the base bid, correct?
That's what
Yes.
we're recommending tonight. to the
Yeah.
board.
At some point in time, when you decide that we're gonna do alternate 1 and 2, then that changes to Dixon. I mean, how does that work?
We're making that decision here tonight with this recommendation to only do the base bid scope of work at this time.
So if we ever decided to add, we would have to rebid it out as a different project, and we would start over with a different project.
Or if at some point in the future you determine that this is something you want to do,
Right.
then that would be a separate and different project after this one is
Correct.
done. And it's
Correct.
decided to fund some of this other work.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Betancourt. Mr. Kuzan.
Yes, you said something about safety and security measures. Would you go over them for me again, please? Safety and additional
Yes, sir.
security.
We would see shared personnel because we do have Project Team West and Project Believe housed next door. So we would propose to share either SRO or security personnel with all 3 sites, a nurse, a behavioral interventionist, as well as an academic interventionist. So 4 shared staff between the 3.
And with the location being so close, then those people could work on both campuses at the same time. And we would pick up a little savings there.
Thank you, Mr. Kuzan. All right. I'll wrap up with the last question, Dr. Sanford. I'm going to give it to the public, but once the committee's done, and I'm on the committee, just be patient. You're not. Wraparound services. I think that's, to me, just from my opinion, that's the key to the whole concept, and I'm really pleased to see that. Is the focus curricular focus going to be educational or behavioral or
Both.
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 Has to
Because
be.
we have to work on the academics in order to comply with Bulletin 741 and meet instructional minutes. But the behavior of some of these students is interfering with their ability to focus in the classroom. So consequently, we have to work on that if we're going to then reintegrate those students into the classroom back at their normal campus to change the behavior long-term.
Very good. Thank you. And again, certainly we have to comply with state law and Bulletin 741, but just as a matter of personal opinion, it seems to be that the behavioral piece, if we can give a little more emphasis to that, to the degree that we can legally, that to me is, in helping these kids with their emotional issues with these wraparound services, to me is will be the saving grace. And I mean that literally for some of these children, maybe, that we can help them reintegrate into their into their regular schools. Because if a child is suffering, they don't really care about what 1 + 1 = 2. I mean, they've got other issues that need to be dealt with first, and then they can worry about that. But that's just my opinion. And last question, you mentioned the staffing, but now do you anticipate any new positions being created? I mean, in terms of new job descriptions or anything like that, or do we have the existing slots or billets, whatever you want to call it, to cover what we need to do?
Well, most of these positions, we do have job descriptions for. However, in order for a person to choose to work here, it's possible that we would have to extend the contract potentially a week before, week after, or 2 weeks before or after, because we do see the additional professional development, because this is going to be extremely specialized. So we want our best people on this campus, and we want to provide them the support that they need with all of the different intervention strategies to make this program successful.
Very good. Well, again, I for one want to commend Mr. Foltz and you, Dr. Sanford, for this program. And I know without a doubt that like we do everything else in St. Tammany Parish, this will be a model for the rest of the state and for the nation. So.
And I would like to say that Ms. Sharon Hosh has been the one leading this charge.
Okay.
But she's retiring, so
That's
we're not gonna brag on her too much. I'm mad at her right now.
That's right.
So.
He's been fuming up here the whole
That's
time.
right.
That's right. Now, and thank you to Mrs. Hosh as well. All right. Now, we will open it up to the public. And if you will again state your name and place of residence for the record, please.
Okay, yeah, my name is Belinda Parker Brown, Louisiana United International, Slidell. I have a few questions. First of all, my first question is who owns the building?
The parish, St. Tammany Parish,
St. Tammany Parish?
parish government.
Who is that?
St. Tammany Parish government? Who is
Is that, you talking about Pat Brisker?
I don't think she personally owns it. St. Tammany Parish government owns it. It's a government building, safe haven.
Well, when you say St. Tammany Parish, okay. All right. Why is it that, I'm one for self-sufficient. Why is it that we want to renovate somebody else's building and spend that kind of money, and then there's no guarantee that they're going to lease it to us?
I think.
And then we have to turn around and lease something that we renovated.
Well, what I just explained to you was the leasing would be reduced in cost so that the money that we're spending, we would recoup on land that property we were
After a
already
period of
leased.
8 years?
8 years, correct.
Okay, so after the 8 years,
We would renegotiate with the parish.
that's my point.
Mhm.
Why we have to renovate something that we got to renegotiate
Because the
and
facility
then start
is,
back leasing again
Yeah.
at whatever.
the location is what we need. We need it immediately. The location matches up to what we're leasing currently. We don't have a facility that meets those needs as well as these do. The reduced cost in the current lease balances out. Yeah.
But my concern is would you renovate somebody else's property and then turn around and lease it from them?
At a reduced rate, if we are, yes, that's what we're doing. That's
Oh,
what we're
okay.
recommending.
All right, I consider that not being very wise because of the fact that, you don't know what they might decide to do at the end of the 8 years.
We have a contract.
Well, again,
Certainly, that's your opinion.
contracts get breached all the time, but as a taxpaying citizens, I'm concerned on how the money is being used,
Okay.
My other question is that, how much money per student? And how many students are we talking about putting into this facility?
Dr. Sanford,
I think we went over that.
Our target audience would be 30 to 40 students to start this pilot. And I do not have an exact amount of money because it would depend upon all of the services that would be needed per student at this time.
but just to clarify, we're already spending these monies now on these students. So it's not by law, so there's no additional, you don't foresee any additional monies.
There are certain services that we would
Right.
not be able
I
to
understand.
pull from a school because they're servicing a number of students. So it is possible,
Sure.
but I can't necessarily project the exact numbers.
Understood. All right. Mrs. Parker Brown.
Okay, my concern is that, have you got any input from, the community for his parents? Where is this coming from? Is just the superintendent?
The superintendent?
Are you the one, who's initiating this outfit, this whole, program? Who's initiating it?
Certainly, the school system is because of the needs that are out there. And as Dr. Sanford mentioned earlier, this would be with the approval of the parents. It has to be a partnership with the parents. We have experts that deal with special education every day. They recommend to us, we believe this is what's best for those students in our school system.
Okay, right, we believe that, but who is we? That's what I'm trying to get to.
The
bottom
central
line.
office,
The central office,
educators
okay.
that do this on a day-to-day basis.
So there wasn't any type of committee formed, or parent participation or anything?
Parents communicate with us on a daily basis, special ed parents.
I'm talking about this particular program?
No.
Okay, all right. As one that do have a student that does IEP with the parish, you know, I have a child, is we're talking about isolating these children in this particular facility?
These students would be provided special education services that they're getting in their schools currently now. So in terms of isolation, many of these students are in classrooms that could be self-contained now. But we believe that the value of all of these umbrella services under one roof, they're missing from our existing program because we're not able to provide every need that they have in terms of all of the therapeutic services to make a lasting change. We're basically doing short-term fixes.
Okay, so what are we gonna do with the classrooms that we presently have that's in the schools right now that's offering these services?
This would only target 30 to 40 students. So in the class currently, there could be other students within that same class. So we can't pull all of the services from the individual students. So these are students that are scattered throughout the district, not just in one school.
So those classrooms will still be used.
So those classrooms are still gonna be in use?
Absolutely.
Yes.
By other special ed students that would not be part of this program.
Wow. I would like to see more information about this particular program that you're offering. Where can I go and find that?
Why
Is
don't
that
you
on the
let-
website too? Is it on the website?
I don't think so. I'll be glad to set up a meeting with you and Dr. Sanford. She can share with you what we have, any other additional questions you may have. I think we've shared with you everything that we know, what we're doing. There's nothing additional that we would post.
Well, I'm very concerned about, and my recommendation is that the board would abstain from voting on this particular project because I'm very concerned about isolating children, separating children, having a facility that we're gonna spend all of this money on, and we don't own it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. If you could state your name for the record and
Yes.
your place of residence.
Yes, sir. My name is Sherry Coltora. I live in Slidell, Louisiana. And I have some concerns about this as well, but not from necessarily just the financial aspect of it. It's more for the betterment of the child. So I am concerned about the isolation of children because that is going on already in our school systems. Would this further isolate? And with bullying being an issue, would it also allow other children to target these children who are in this facility?
Let me just remind again that any placement at this facility, this site, will be with the approval of the parents, so there would not be anyone going there without the parents' approval. As far as the bullying part, I'm not sure, and I'm not seeing the connection there.
Well, I come from the bullying
I know you
standpoint.
do.
Yes,
I
sir.
know you do.
My goal here is for the betterment. Now, financially speaking, that breaks it down to about 23,000 per child.
Right.
You earlier stated that the average cost is 12,000 per child. So does that reduce down to 12,000 if you add the extra 10 children?
No, ma'am. We're still paying, still the same student has the same cost. And these additional costs are mandated by state and federal regulations.
Yes, sir.
As you know.
Yes, sir.
So, those are the regulations that are in place. So we're going to continue to do those as well as try to meet the needs of every student financially. And we just think this is a way to offer better to those students. If a parent doesn't see it that way, then they won't put their child in this site. But we believe that and we have heard from parents that we believe that will be happy to be here and be part of that. And as Dr. Sanford said, we see this as a short-term solution for some of them, then going back to the school that they came from.
I definitely appreciate your
Yeah.
attention to the I mean, I do believe
I know
that
you
you
do.
are here for
Yeah.
the betterment of the
I
children.
know you do.
You know, that is my concern, though,
Sure.
the children
Absolutely.
purely. So would parents be able to recommend their child to go there, or would it always come from an
No, it'd
administrative
be part of the
standpoint?
IEP process, which would,
Yes,
every
sir.
time includes the parent
Yes,
signing
sir.
off on it, so.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the public? Oh, okay. Back to Mrs. Hines.
I'd like to comment that many of us as board members have heard from staff in our schools and parents in our school system that have some concerns about this portion of our special ed program. And we've asked the superintendent and Dr. Sanford to investigate, along with Mrs. Hosh and her department, ways that we can provide a better educational setting for these students and a safer educational setting for the students and for our faculty. And so they are really following a directive from the board, and it will be a pilot program, and we will be kept informed as well as the public kept informed on this program. And we always move in a manner where we try to educate ourselves on what would be the best for our situation, you know, for our students, for our staff. And I feel like that's where we're going with this program. And I appreciate those efforts. And, you know, there's always an evaluation of every program that we do in the school system. And I appreciate that it will be a pilot program
Yes,
that we will
ma'am.
look at.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other, we'll now move, closed discussion and, well, we've got to close discussion at some point, but since you haven't had a chance to speak, I'll let you speak. Name and place of residence for the record.
Thank you. My name is Robert Broom from Slidell. The question is, will placement in the RISE program be specified or written into the IEP? And will a duration, or an expected duration, be included in the IEP?
It would, but I think the expected duration would certainly need to be flexible enough if
Sure,
you know these
absolutely.
students and what their challenges are. For me to sit here and tell you it'd be a certain amount of time would be,
But it would be specified, whatever
absolutely.
the goal would be in the
Absolutely.
IEP itself.
Just like every IEP is.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Broom. Appreciate it. Absolutely. All right. Floor is now closed for discussion. I will open the floor for voting. We still have committee members voting. Okay, all committee members have voted. We'll tabulate the votes. And the recommendation to the board for next week, of course, all our motions are recommendations to the full board, and that'll be 13 yeas, 1 nay, and no abstentions. All right? Okay, thank you. Ms. Tipton, item H.
Yes, sir. We received another bid. It was received on March 15th, 2018. And this was for Whispering Forest Elementary roof and exterior waterproofing repairs. And we are recommending acceptance of the lowest responsive and responsible base bids submitted by Nockwins Painting and Waterproofing in the amount of $319,609 for the roof and exterior waterproofing repairs project located at Whispering Forest Elementary School, St. Tammany Parish School Board Project Number R0033.
All right. Motion by Mrs. Mullet for consideration of bids for Whispering Forest. Is there a second? Mr. Hersey seconds. Floor is open to committee members for discussion. Nobody? All right. Floor is now open to the public. All right. Not seeing anything from the public. Floor is closed. All those in favor, we'll take a vote. Sorry, got ahead of myself. Oop. Need it. Okay, all committee members have voted. Tabulate the votes. And motion carries unanimously. All right, now for your monthly construction report, Ms. Tipton.
Thank you. At Pearl River High, the temporary modulars have been removed from the site, and the contractor is completing the punch list and closeout of the project. At Fontainebleau Junior High, the contractor has demolished the 150 modular building and is demobilizing from the site. The school has moved into the new wing at Mayfield Elementary, and the contractor is completing some final punch list items. At Lancaster Elementary, millwork has been installed and the floor tile is being laid. The exterior brick and metal brackets have been installed and the project is nearing completion. At Slidell High, the restrooms in the gym lobby and the new east entry hall are in the process of being turned over to the school. The first set of locker rooms that are being renovated are progressing towards completion, and the contractor is working towards transition between phases and will soon be starting on the new kitchen. At Mandeville Junior High, the temporary modular wing is being disconnected and the modulars are being scheduled to be removed. Exterior brickwork and plaster is being installed at the pupil appraisal building, and mechanical and electrical are being roughed in the interior. Final inspections are being scheduled for Bayou Lacombe Museum. The football field poles and lights have been installed at Pearl River High, and the electrical service is being completed. Architects for the additions at Madisonville Elementary and Mandeville High are working on the initial drawings for these projects. And we continue to coordinate for summer projects and are scheduling pre-construction meetings in advance of the end of the school year. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions from committee members regarding our monthly construction report? Okay. Not seeing any. Thank you, Ms. Tipton, and good job as always. And I don't know if y'all noticed earlier, but Ms. Tipton so lives and breathes construction that she, instead of saying board docs, she actually said bid docs. Thank you, Ms. Tipton. All right, we'll move on now to business affairs. Mrs. Prevost.
Thank you, Mr. Nation. The February financial statement was sent to you electronically, and I will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, any questions for Mrs. Prevost regarding our monthly financials? All right, now monthly purchasing.
The purchasing report was sent to you electronically, and Ms. Stevens is here to answer any questions you have.
Any questions for Ms. Stevens? All right. Thank you, Mrs. Prevost. Announcements by the Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Nation. There will be a special board meeting immediately following this board meeting for expulsion hearings. There will be a reception at 6:15 prior to the board meeting on Thursday, April 19th at the Brooks Educational Complex. The 2017-2018 Students of the Year, Support Employees of the Year, and Substitutes of the Year will be honored at that reception, and the board meeting will follow the reception at 7 p.m. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. With no other business to come before the committee, declare this meeting adjourned.